you come in as an ordinary human being. And ordinary human beings are confused and neurotic. So that's a wonderful thing that when you meet a great master like Geboren, he is your dad, he is your father, he is your shrink, he is your friend, he is your meditation teacher. He covers a lot of roles, and we all were there. And that also enhanced our own neuroses. And that's exactly what happens around the wisdom master. Everything gets enhanced.
Rinpoche Yangsi, nga sorwa pe mise sangbo yungudos, kangaresena nga kongle tesum tani mendo, te kaza na gombali ji pepson, nga raya na gombala halesons, kangares konge chomjen tenala shingi tupshishane simsa yorela. Kora sharja kawa pegin se nga zokandi shudu, nga zo dushu karijo. Nga ran desa dirun sharja nanglendo, ti kala ma shu me ma nye ile tangla de, kudo kongma nashi ma sim 근데 gonda 나도 요 말에 주님을 뭐지 다 쇼기인데 팩이 있으면 난 로면 안 들을 대상이 나 기부도 나랑 공부하는 들을 대상이
In Tibetan Buddhism tradition we have a reincarnation. Western people could be a little bit difficult for cognitive thinking. Emotionally it's quite nice because all the lamas come together, sing, lamas like chanting, good atmosphere, all these things. But theoretically, cognitive thinking might be a little bit tough. Yeah. You're also one of a reincarnation from something. Maybe Tibetan, maybe chicken, maybe dog, maybe fish, whatever. You need one lama to recognize.
My past life is sixth reincarnation of God Tupchen. His name is Tenzin Dorje. Most of the time he practiced retreat. I don't remember much. I only very simple things. I cannot make distinction of this life and the past life when I was young. 2, 3, I cannot make distinction. This life or past life, I don't know. It's one. Later then I remember. I can make more clear. Before it's one life.
Zambuninla apa mangbo yores. Apa ta zambuninla bubu changma apa megen yo mare. Ina zambuling nangale ang thangbo yimba chi apa ke dushi shagate. Khan sena honge nganzola education changba maris wisdom education nangsons inaya korangi chungchung gani nganzola oi 진주 마음발라 최최고레스 센데다 치만이데 치만 내가 제거래 진주 미망을 펜셈 제거래 진주 함벌 제거레스 진주 배 용중체 현은 너바 마체스 현은 펜바 제거레스 키란수 미 양탁바지 고그레마도 미 너무 미티 재능 이쁘고도 되게 말았어
coming here the first time in Nepal in 1970 in September, and it was a beautiful season, and it was clear and clean and marvelous.
And the reason?
The reason I was searching for spiritual fulfillment and answer to all the great questions of life. At the time I arrived here, it didn't exist at all. The whole area was, right here was just rice fields with tiny little narrow pathways going through it and bamboo bushes. And beyond the first ring of buildings around the stupa was no building happening at all, except I have memory of that wash basin which is down the road here. It's very old because I lived in the house behind me, and I used to go for a bath in that basin, which was the only water spot in the whole village. That's where people, separate men, separate women, would take their bath and just soap themselves. And that's the only water source for bathing for the whole environment in those days. We're talking 39 years ago. I came first here after a long, long journey from Holland, hitchhiking overland through Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan, India. And I left Holland because I was searching for, let's say, the absolute truth. And I had a strong inkling that it was connected to Buddhism. I hope to find the final answer to all my life questions, and hopefully a teacher, and also this place was where the best hashis came from at that time.
This is the office that I've worked with my husband, my former husband, now my partner, in our publishing company, Ranjang Yeshe Publications. And I think we've been in this office since sometime in the 90s, but we've been living in the monastery on and off since the 80s. And we also have a small place up at Nagi Gompo where we stayed with Geboren. We were primarily there. So all the Ranjang Yeshe publication books, including Blazing Splendor, which is the story of Geboren's memoirs, kind of came out of this office in one way or another. So I've had the fortune to also be Geboren's biographer. I've been his archivist, and I've been his biographer working with Eric Pema Kunzang. And that's the other thing to say, is that when you're married to the translator, it's a lot easier to get teachings than if you're not. So I had that fortune.
So it's all the time like this. In the evening, we always gathered after the teachings, had a drink. You know, whoever was there, they would, after the teachings, always come to my flat. And at daytime, sometimes we would pose in yogic Buddhist attire, just for memory's sake. Here was Nubri Tulku. Holy smoke. He was the heart of the party in Nagi Gompa. You could go to him at 7 in the morning. You would walk by his house, lived in the first floor where the nuns are living, and he would go always. That means come up. So at 7 in the morning, we would go up there. Then there was one nun already making buckwheat pancake, which he would paste with hot chili sauce, and then he would get hot rice beer, you know, and a pancake and a rice beer and a rice beer and a pancake. And then an hour later we would go to say hello to Tuku. And when you say hello to Tuku, you always bunk head. Huh? And when you bunk head, you always get, you guys have been visiting Nubri Tuku. Kind of normal procedure in Nagi Gompa. This is so nice. So all these memories come up. So that was that life in Nagi Gompa. Let's see what else we have. This is Tuku trying to teach us what the hell I'm doing with those guys. These are my tango days in Kathmandu. After Rinpoche passed away, I brought the Argentinian tango to Kathmandu. I flew him a tango master, and then we started teaching tango in Kathmandu, to the eternal horror of my Buddhist friends. They actually came up to me and asked me, "Are you still a Buddhist?" When I asked back, "Was I ever one?"
During the period that this monastery was just constructed, you stayed here, Lodotai stayed here, I stayed here.
Even before that.
We had big fights. Big, huge fights. Like, I was staying under very humble censors. Okay, no telling.
When you tell the difference, people know.
They come in Holland to my studio later on and they will film more.
You know, it's not a matter of friends, it's a matter of family. You really don't get to choose after a while your close Dharma friends.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to choose them, you probably wouldn't, but then, you know, I don't think we probably would have chosen our families either, but we have that, it's a connection, a karmic connection, and how the older you get, the better you are at being able to respect that connection and appreciate it. But it's not a matter of choice, and it would be wonderful if we all had incredible pure perception of each other, and I think we do as we get older.
We often hear, "Oh, those people in Nagigompa, they're horrible. They fight among each other, and they're not harmonious, and they're not how a real Sangha should be." And we all have a big laugh about that. We always drink together when we meet. And Tulku Ujin never said, "Discipline yourself, behave well." He never said that. He said, look in your mind, invigorate that clarity aspect and deal with whatever comes up. And when you can't deal with it, then come for help. And that's what we did. And you find other Buddhist communities, and if you really look closely, why they are so peaceful on the outside, because they do other types of practices. They don't engage that clarity aspect. They don't have that door open where the Buddha and the demons are come. They make a kind of practice where the demon door is closed and a fake Buddhist stillness is maintained. That is called stupidity shamatha. It's a state of stupidity stillness. Because all your negativity, all your heavy thoughts are absent, but the wisdom is also absent in that kind of meditation.
I really believe the Western world has a big problem on the subtle body, energy body, stress out, fear, and messed up. Thinking is quite good, but the feeling, emotion, sensation, subtle body is really messed up. So I'm really working hard on how to calm the subtle body, energy body, and then you can think properly. Because you put so much energy of organized thinking where we don't have. We are like chaotic, but within this chaotic of life, but there's some emotionally well-being happen, but which is not 100% right. But the West, everything is like in box. So many boxes from childhood up to death. So you cannot really get out from box. So the mind is busy and the subtle body is stressed out. So this is not so good.
The key primary teacher in your life is the teacher who points out the nature of your mind. And it's not that they point it out, you also have to recognize. So it's like they use the example of like flint, touching stone and the spark making fire. So that's the most essential practice, because through the recognition of mind nature that your teacher points out, you will become enlightened. And that's probably the most serious relationship you're ever going to have, is the person who's going to lead you to enlightenment. So.
offered me sort of the job of going and stay at his monastery, eat with the monks 3 meals a day, and have a place to sleep in exchange for working with as an assistant with the other painters. And that was like a lifeline, and also it showed that he was not like the usual Tibetan masters of that time. He was very open-minded, and he had no machismo and prejudice against female practitioners like I experienced with all the other lamas in general. And not only that, but he was a supreme teacher of the most supreme path of Tibetan Buddhism. So that I still experience as my rescue also, because he took me from feeling discouraged after too many years of being, well, you know, psychologically abused by male-dominant machismo monks, and who discouraged actually me proceeding on the Buddhist path.
What makes Tulku Ujin my personal teacher is like when you sit in Holland in your little chalet, then when you sit there and have your evening cocktail, then it's your personal experience of the sun shining upon you. So among the many suns, wisdom suns that are possible, there's one sun that's always with you, always accompanies you the most, nourishing you the most. And that was for me Tulku Ujin. But definitely 3 millimeters behind is definitely Khensa Rinpoche and Jadra Rinpoche. So it's very nice to have several great masters.
This is a picture from Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche from 1980 when he was in Malaysia, and he was in a really happy mood when that the shot was taken. And this is the famous picture that we call Liberation Through Seeing, when Eric Pema Kunzang asked to take a photo and told Rinpoche, please make this something that people in future generations can look at and see what it's like for someone to be in a meditative state, so that it'll be a great benefit for people. Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche has 6 sons, 4 of whom are incarnate lamas, and they all have different, it's like the facet of a jewel, and they all have different qualities of him. And they're all really great teachers of my nature.
3 years, I stayed with him and learning meditation. But at that time, I had panic attacks. And after that, I did 3-year retreat at 13 years old. After finish my enthronement ceremony, next year, I went to 3-year retreat. First year, my panic got worse. Then I used my panic as support for meditation. I really tried to apply my meditation technique from my father, because my father teach me how to use panic as support for meditation. Because normally there's 2 problems. We follow the panic, means, yes, sir, panic, everything is miserable, fearful, you know, it's not good. But if we hate the panic, panic becomes our enemy, not good. I just say, hello. But that time, I cannot speak Tibetan. I cannot speak English. I speak Tibetan. And so I didn't say hello as English, but I say in Tibetan. Then after that, my panic became my best friend, because of my father's teaching.
I had been invited in 1975 by Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, who I knew at that time for quite a while, to come and help with the production of these huge, big scroll paintings that are hanging here against the walls, and that were the only form of decoration at that time. And I worked from morning till the light would be disappearing, together with the master painter and some assistants on these scrolls. And they depict the 12 main events in the Buddha Sakyamuni's life. So from his birth till his passing away. And the passing away is the last tanka hanging here. You see the Buddha reclining on a throne and his disciples crying. But after the work was finished, then it started, the whole finishing up of the monastery started and preparing for the arrival of the big Lama. And then, of course, I had to find a place somewhere else because it was not a monastery for females, it's not a nunnery. And I had to move out, and that was a very hard process. I felt like being expelled from the family home, you know, it was a tough period.
I had a problem before, depression. If you need to struggle with your thought and emotion, yes, you can. But if you don't want, there's a way. There's another way, another exit door that you can let it go. So I think in my everyday life, that teaching was the most benefit for me. So I think I got from him.
Rumbucheke kaduina jamdan inge marawache sunguyores rumbucheke. Mele changsemche, mele pembache mamusungnan. Tingi samdo kenza mele inge da changsemche rangla benefit kanyunguyena zanango hako mindus tidu pu kapsula. Ta tandang only realize chasons. Mele pembache no maje changsemse debare. Shen chungchungal ngape notius. 정말 투가 잡고요. 아주 쓰라디나라 망분 징기스. 이게 베데 람사 돌라나 람사 잡그래서가 세단처럼 미친데 있어. 이나 yap게 깔롭디 같이 있는 섬라산 뒤둥이 시라 레라이즈 체토 마소. 다 단다 섬로 당도 원이 잠든 인기데 내가 좀 버려도 다 등산 미 투술라 미 나라 대 로션바티 yap단 저일라만 바까티 레삼바도.
I would like to give one example of Rinpoche's humbleness and fatherly kindness. In Singapore, when we were both in Singapore, I was taken quite ill one night, and the Chinese monk said we must get him to hospital. And Sunam, who was another monk, he said, no, not until we wake up Rinpoche. And when Rinpoche came to my bed, he said, "Oh, you go away, go away, go away." And after he had done some puja with the purpa, and I felt something going completely out from me, and then he sat on my bed and putting cold compressions on my head, you know. So that was an example of how humble and how fatherly he was.
They're human beings. When Khenpo Rinpoche passed away and the message was related to Tulku Ujin, I was in his room. When the message came, Tulku Ujin started crying for 2 days because his friend and teacher and brother in Dharma, his teacher in Dharma, had passed away. He cried for 2 days. And we were all first shocked and then really touched about this human quality in a realized master.
And we had so much time with the teacher, which is also not the case anymore these days, since there are huge numbers, droves coming to see these teachers that have less time and move more about. You know, Tulku Ujin hardly moved about. He stayed in one spot most of the time, so he was very easily accessible. Nowadays, teachers are not so easy accessible, and you have to comply to the older students that make up rules and set up barriers to reach. So we had a lot of freedom and space to express ourselves in whatever our path was at that point.
just look at the way how Rinpoche said hello to people.
Yeah.
You know, the Tibetans have what they call utuk.
Touching the head.
Would you please, His Eminence? Boing. They do always they give each other those head bonks.
Greeting.
And Tuku Ujin did even with the cowboys, the working stuff. Everybody from the 16th Karmapa down to the cowboy.
Sweepers, almost, yeah.
Touching forehead. And that also shows how he kind of experienced the Buddha nature in every being. I've never seen that with any other Lama.
For quite a while, Geboren Rinpoche was ill. He had gotten quite weak, I think, in 1994, and that weakness progressed into other problems with his body, and he ended up having a gallbladder operation in Germany. And he never quite recovered from that gallbladder operation. And at that particular time, there was a lot of unpleasantness, not just within his own group. There's the unpleasantness with the Karma Kargyu regents. There was unpleasantness amongst Geboren Rinpoche's Western students, and there was some unpleasantness or not very good feeling amongst his Tibetan and Nepali nuns. So it was a very, very negative time. The energy was really, really bad. Everyone's trying to find blame because it's coming to a point where one can look at impermanence. And the teacher is not well, and he's not getting better. So even though it would be nice to say that the last year and a half or 2 years of his life were great, they weren't.
I was due to come here in 3 days' time, so he passed away 3 days before I was due to get here. And I had a dream which was quite significant. I related it to Ato Rinpoche. He said that was Rinpoche telling you that he had already gone. So that, it was quite shattering because we didn't expect him to go that quickly.
In February, a phone call came, and I had the phone next to my bed, and it was Andreas's voice from Nepal, and saying that Tuku Ujin had passed away and that he had kept his promise to call me as first at that moment, and I never forget that Andreas was so mindful to do that.
Living with a wisdom master is a great learning process, but also his passing, when you're left alone and thrown, so to speak, out of the nest. Eventually we have to go through that experience, which is very important. But it can be traumatic. For me, it was traumatic, definitely. And it's, again, something I had to work through.
When one Lama called and asked about the signs, and different Lamas were trying to tell him different signs, he said, no, what's the sky like? And the sky was completely crystal clear blue, and a much deeper blue than I think it has been since in my perception. And that feeling of his wisdom and compassion really just completely encompassing the whole area, which is you can't describe it. So the physical body was gone, but not that continual connectedness through love and compassion.
after he passed away, then we were kind of thrown back on ourselves. And then you suddenly discover that you are not such a great meditator. It was actually more the energy of Tuku Ujin which was carrying us on. At least me. For me, that was the case. So that was an interesting experience to see how much of this 12 intense year has been Tuku Ujin's blessing and energy, and how little was actually myself, my own realization, my own meditation.
I think it makes sense to spend a lot of time now on introspection and meditation. Yeah, I think that would be a sensible thing to do. Well, for my own feeling, the closest I come to this point of combining Buddhism and my work as an artist is Milarepa. The reason to choose Milarepa as the subject for this book was my journey to Tibet in 1987. So I perceived the Chinese, the way they have occupied the country. And so when I traveled back from Lhasa to the border of Nepal on my way back, I reflected what I could do to sort of express my support for the Tibetan people's spirit. And I thought, well, it would be good to emphasize a true Tibetan hero. The main teaching of the story of Milarepa has to do with the power of the will and how any adverse circumstances can be conquered by willpower. He attains full liberation from suffering and realization of Buddhahood.
I usually do 3 main retreats a year, and they're somewhere between 3 and 6 months or 1 and 6 months, depending upon how much time I get. And I think you probably heard this before from us older practitioners. I would like to spend more time in retreat. One of my teachers has asked me to spend 8 months and to do 4 months of work. So that would be my aspiration. It hasn't happened yet, but I have been quite fortunate over the years to spend a lot of time in retreat, consecutive time as well, and be near to Geboren Rinpoche for about, for 13 of the years that I was seriously practicing. I could do retreat and then go at the end of the retreat and ask questions. And so that made a really big difference.
So a few years ago, we did a huge exhibition of Buddhist art as preserved in Tibet in the Villa Hügel. And we brought about 130 objects from Lhasa, from the Potala, from Dalai Lama's residence, Nobulinka, and other monasteries. We brought that to the Villa Hügel in Essen. In the Potala alone, they have more than 800,000 art objects catalogued in one place alone. So the wells of art there is unbelievable. And I got the job for 2 years, and it was so intense that I used to get up at morning at 5, made my coffee, and by latest 6 o'clock, I was on the computer and would work till 7 or 8 in the evening till I finally collapsed. And then the result was a heavy double of a catalog, which everybody complained about because it's impossible to carry it through the exhibition.
myself, I'm interested to stay in nice forest. Huh? I cannot stay like Milarepa. I need food and shelter and comfortable. And to want to practice a lot and read a lot of books, rest nicely, huh? And with some friends. Not so many people going around here, there. This is sort of my interest. Not very fancy big house or not big responsibility. This is my sort of natural interest. But whenever I try saying to my teachers, I want to do retreat, not one, not two, all of them sort of they have meeting and say, want to say something, same words. They say, why you want to do retreat? You are reincarnation. Still you need to do something, then there's no purpose to reincarnation, has nothing, no value. Past lives, you've done so many practice, so your mind is need to be a little bit more stable than, so your love, your wisdom, your tolerance need to be something different, otherwise what purpose? And you're born for what reason? To help sentiment, right?
So I'm looking very much forward to the event tomorrow, and it will be a huge, big, festive occasion with a few thousand people arriving from everywhere in the world to attend the event. And for days now, I hear the sound of all the monks practicing their instruments to play ritual music during this ceremony. And outside, they're making a red carpet of red paint on the entranceway, and they're going to decorate it with 8 auspicious symbols laid out in rice. And yeah, it will be exciting, totally.
I had a very strong feeling when I met the mother of the incarnation. I believe it was 2001, I traveled to Bir in India. And I met her and I said to my partner, Eric Pemakunzang, she's pregnant and she's pregnant with Tuku Organ's incarnation. And no one even knew she was pregnant at the time. So throughout the year, while she was pregnant, I kind of kept tabs on her, and of course we found out that she was having a boy. And then I had a very strong experience on the morning that the child was born, and I knew the child was born. So it took about 5 or 6 years for Chulsha Rinpoche to recognize the boy. So it was more like, okay, now it's official.
And Chulsha Rinpoche is a very old Lama by now, born in Tibet, and he is the highest authority for the situation to indicate and recognize reincarnate Lamas from the same tradition and transmission lineage as Tuku Ogyens. And he is the one who had indications about the parents and the place of rebirth, and he actually confirmed that this person is actually the person who has the mind stream of Tuku Ogyen, is the incarnation of Tuku Ogyen Rinpoche.
Our son is Tuku Ogyen, so then is recognized by True Rinpoche. So we had no choice but to say, okay,
Yeah. People are always looking at, lamas who have consorts and consorts from good families and what kind of children they're going to have. And Naten Choling is the fourth incarnation of Chogyur Dechen Lingpa. And his past life was the father of Organ Topgo Rinpoche and Siga Control Rinpoche. And he was a great lama, and it was because of him that we actually have the books of the Choling Terser. He brought them out of Tibet. So he was a lama who accomplished a lot, even though he died quite young. But also he's a incarnation of a Siddha-type lama.
My guru, Timkhazu Rinpoche, and the 16 Karmapa, they recognized me since I remember when I was like 2-3 years old. And so they recognized me as a reincarnation of the Chogyur Lingpa, the fourth reincarnation of Chogyur Lingpa. So since then, I came down in the monastery to India, and I grew up in the monastery, and so, yeah, that's about it, I think.
So everyone looks at a person like Naten Choling, and you can meet him, and actually there is a yogi. There is one facet of a yogi, this very simple yet stable individual who you feel emanates so much love and compassion. And then his beautiful consort, who amongst the Tibetans, people had talked about her for a long time. If you listen to Tibetan gossip, they'd always talked about that daughter of a Gyare Rinpoche as being special, as being a Dakini, a Khandro. So it's probably no surprise that such remarkable parents will have remarkable children.
Yeah, since, they recognize me as a reincarnation, my job as a teacher, so eventually, yes, I'm going to think myself as a teacher. And then, director, I met filmmakers, I think I like to make film. Yeah, I think, definitely that I like to share the, Buddhist story like this to inspire other people to become a more, peaceful, calm, more, compassionate person. So I think that's the main motivation and that's how I, choose the Milarepa too. So then, of course, movie is, first thing I thought that movie is because of the so powerful. Mm-hmm. It can reach many, many people. Example, like in Nepal, you can see in Delhi, everywhere now there's Milarepa.
Pirated version.
Of the series,
But it's good, it's doing its purpose, yeah?
When I tell you that that's in the Rangi Sim, the Junga Simbari. So, today, so in the Rangi Sim, Tawachi Sim, I see Tiki, to the Junga Simbari. So, toward the Dama to Tawa Tusha.
joyous, at this moment. Everything went very well, and to see all the students of Geboren Rinpoche come from all over the world, and to especially have Trishik Rinpoche come down, I'm extremely, I mean it, I'm really grateful, I was thinking that if he couldn't come, the ceremony will not be full for me as a mother, because as a mother, you always want the best for your child. So for me, having Trishik Rinpoche come and bless the Yangtze, bless us, bless everybody, bless the ceremony, for me, that was my biggest aspiration. I was always praying, please make sure he comes, so I'm very happy.
I was also recognized as Rinpoche. In fact, true. One, 16, His Holiness 16 Karmapa recognized as me 7 Yongge Mingyur Rinpoche. And another one, His Holiness Dingu Chenze Rinpoche recognized me as 2nd Ganji Rinpoche. And I have now big confusion because I have 2 minds here and they all fight. No, joking. No problem. But I don't talk about that. And special in Tibetan Buddhism, we don't talk about our inner quality. Oh, I'm such living Buddha and come to this earth and to save you, we don't talk about that.
Typical Nepal. So he's been enthroned in Kanyang Sharubling Monastery 2 days ago. So now he's coming to his place, one of his places. So coming here as auspicious and relaxing a little bit and some small ceremony and eat food. And there's some culture show. Hopefully he have a good time here. Then tomorrow he's going to Nagigomba.
quite interesting to see that in the West, a kind of Buddhism is spreading where very important elements of Buddhism are missing. And trust and devotion is one of the major elements. So from the get-go, I mean, Buddha himself, when you look at the early scriptures, he always inspired faith and devotion in his students, and that is the inspiration why they followed him. If you lack that, I mean, why would you go into that trip? And there are specific meditations how to open up your mind to these kind of feelings which we Westerners are very scared of. I mean, devotion to what? To Guru, and what might the Guru do with us? And all these doubts are coming up. So one needs to first learn gradually what is devotion, to what is devotion directed, what is a Buddha, what is the Buddha nature, how does it relate to me, what is a qualified Guru, what is a fake Guru, how can I distinguish those things? You need to educate your mind in order to free your mind. And this is the sad thing is that there are not so many wisdom masters around, and that Western students somehow expect that the Lamas kind of come to their doorstep. When you're really interested in finding wisdom masters, then you have to go.
Basic understanding is to base on life after life. And that base on is mind and matter. And mind is different from matter. So matter exhausts some point in this time, but the mind stream still goes until the karmic pattern exhausts, ego clinging diminish, and then the taking birth will cease. So then, which we call as nirvana or enlightenment or liberation. So until that, there's a continuation of life. And it takes time. It might take time, 500 lifetime. It might take 1 billion lifetime. So, genuine Buddhists, they don't mind. Whenever, one day, they will reach enlightenment. But the path itself is good, peaceful, compassion, helping other people, not harming yourself. So how long it takes doesn't matter. If there's suffering, then it is a problem. So you have to finish as soon as possible. But the journey of enlightenment is not the problem. It's good. It's a peaceful path.
Today is the very auspicious day where the incarnation, the reincarnation, the rebirth, so to speak, of Tuku Ujin is coming back to the monastery here. And today is the third major residence of Tuku Ujin, Nagi Gompa, where he is here to now. And that was Rinpoche's favorite place. He was a very good father. He built a monastery for all of his sons. But his favorite place was up here because he didn't like to stay out there in the valley where so much business, so much people are.
People in Tibet take it really seriously. You have a tuku, so you give it up, and parents give up their kids joyfully, So that's the difference. But now times have changed also, and then I think these days, like, I don't like to say give up. It's more like he'll be moving to different places. Like, so he'll stay here. We'll come here once in a while to see him. And during his vacations, he can come up to India, see us, spend some time. And sometimes we can go out of the country, you know. So it's not like giving up.
Wilt u naar aanleiding van deze uitzending reageren of een gratis programmagids bestellen? Bezoek dan onze website boeddhistischeomroep.nl. DVD's van onze programma's kunt u bestellen op 010 411 3977.